Start.
Welcome back, Mireille.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. It's good to see you again. It's a long time ago. We met for the first time 3 years ago.
Yes, first at the Mastermind in Amsterdam, and then in my living room to record episode 30.
Yeah, and do
on
you
the
still
Workshops Work
remember?
podcast.
Yeah, do you still remember the Mastermind? It was 40 degrees. That very hot day in Amsterdam.
Yes, true. It was very hot.
Yeah.
And now we're back here together. In the meantime, a pandemic happened and we all moved from on-site to online. And I would like to start this conversation with a different question than usual. So what has happened since we last spoke? What are your learnings? What is your journey through the pandemic since our last recording?
Yeah, it's so many happened, but I think that's for everybody. It was a crazy year, or crazy 2 years, to be honest. And I can remember that when the first lockdown was calling out, or that they say, okay, we have a lockdown. It was March 18, I think I remember, 2 years ago. I had an appointment with my business coach 2 or 3 days later, and everybody was a little bit in a shock. Oh, what's happening? And a little bit fear and what's happening and not knowing. And my business coach was saying to me, Mireille, you have experience in online working. And a lot of people have to work online at this moment. Why are you not organizing Q&As for all those people who don't know what to do? And I thought, Q&As, online working? Because before COVID, I worked already a lot of online. I'm an associate with at a facilitation company in the US. So before COVID, we already met each other online 2 times every month. So working online with a team of international facilitators was not new for me. So I did what my business coach was saying to me.
So coachable.
Yeah, so coachable, of course. So I started directly with free Q&As, how to hold your meeting online. And that's exploded. And I think that was the start of my online career in the Netherlands. From the Q&As, I think I did 10 or 20 free Q&As, and then I thought, yeah, but I have to also buy some bread, and I have to also pay the rent of my home. So then I designed a training. So in April 2 years ago, I started the first training in online facilitation, how to make your meetings interactive. And that goes on and on and on and on till the beginning of this year. Now it's a little bit quiet for question the online trainings or training online facilitation, I have to say. Yeah.
Wow. And what comes next? You said that this is slowing down, and when we're discussing about possible topics for today's conversation, because last time we talked about the day after, what comes after the workshop and how to document it. And today I would like to explore what comes after being this freelance facilitator who designs, holds a workshop. And I know from many beginning facilitators that they dream of building a business around their facilitation superpowers or around their passion. So I think you already gave us a glimpse of your entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah. And that's something that I've always admired in you. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that. So how did you come to build your business as a facilitator, and what comes next?
It's a good question, because a lot of people are asking me or are saying also, you've done so many nice things. You can always find me on LinkedIn. every day or every week I post there 2, 3, 4 times a week. And the posts over there are quite a different. Sometimes it's very personal about my life, my private life, or things I'm subjects I'm thinking of or which matters me. Sometimes it's content, practical content you can directly use for your own meeting. Sometimes it's something funny I found on the internet also. And being always present on LinkedIn, every week, there never stops a week. That really helps because people are sort of counting on it. Oh, it's Friday, there's coming a post. Oh, it's Tuesday, oh, there's coming a post. And you see that people also make up their minds. They have an opinion about you. And that's very strange because sometimes somebody calls me or I have a chit chat with a client, and then he or she is saying, "Oh, but you are doing such nice things. You are so happy. You look like energetic and enthusiastic." And sometimes I think, "How do you know?" Because I'm tired. I don't want to work today. But then people have their own opinion because of the posts of their what they are doing, what they see of you.
Yeah. So this means that you build your reputation through LinkedIn, if I understand you correctly. And would you then also consider LinkedIn as your main funnel to find new clients?
Yeah. One of the biggest advice I can give a starting facilitator or even somebody else who wants to be an entrepreneur: show up. Show up, show up, show up. Find your own voice. Find also, I'm not saying your own USP, because your own USP looks like you only can do one thing, your unique selling point. But my opinion is you can do more things, but it have to be clear for your audience. When I started as a facilitator, that's 6 or 7 years ago, I get the question of a friend of mine, and she was saying to me, and I will never forget, "You are a facilitator. You facilitate teams. You facilitate sessions. But to be honest, I don't know for what sort of session I can call you. Can I call you for a strategy meeting? Can I call you for a kickoff or for a mediation meeting, something else? Or when there's a conflict in my team? I don't know. So that's why I don't call you as a client." And then I thought, yeah, that's very good advice. Be clear about the sort of meetings or the sort of services you deliver for your client.
And it's funny that you started this explanation, because I totally agree. And I think that's golden advice. And for me, this would refer to this unique selling point. So maybe it's not one service that we're selling, but I think that you want to have a brand, and it can be a personal brand, that if someone meets someone else around a dinner table at the bar and they're talking about a problem, they will say, "Oh, you have to call Mireille, because she is the person to call in this matter." And I think if we become this one person that someone would refer to when they hear about the problem we can solve, then we made everything right. And this for me would be a unique selling point, a USP.
Yeah. And I can add something. The person who is at the dinner table, he or she has to have you, Mireille, or somebody else in his or her top of mind. So you're not in top of mind when you post or do your marketing once a month. Then there are so many other mails and some other articles and some other videos which are going through it. So then you are not top of mind. Only once a month, just a single thing, send it out. That's too less. be on top of mind of the people, of your clients, of your audience, so that they still remember, oh, there she is again. Oh, there is she again, or he. And that's by being very continuous every week.
Yeah. And providing value.
And providing value, of course. And second one, making sense out of it. Because people want to practice it in their own context. When you only write such abstracts or something, and people, then your readers are thinking, oh, that's nice, but that's not for me. They need to relate it to their own context, to their own problems, to their own questions, to their own troubles.
Yeah. Very good point. And I think through this sense making, you can also show your synthesizing abilities and sense making abilities. And I think that's one of the superpowers of a facilitator, right? It's to condense information, to bring it to a point, to take something from one context and apply it to another one. And then they get a sense of who you are and how you work.
And I think the word sense making is exactly on point. Yeah.
And then when I come back to your experience through the Q&As and the trainings that you provided, it sounds more like business to customers, so that you sold these sessions or you invited individuals. Whereas if I understood you correctly, before that you were rather working with corporates and teams. So who do you attract through your marketing strategy on social media? And how did this shift your client base before and through the pandemic?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. The first 3 months in the start of the pandemic, it were open trainings. So single persons who bought a ticket for my training. And I think in the summer of 2020, it changed. I still give every month one open training, but then I get a lot of questions for in-company. And what's happening over there? That's a good question, good reflection question. What happened in the summer? And I think in every organization, there are also always some people, some employees who wants to know more. They are something like, I want to be self-employed. I have some self-leadership. I want to get more knowledge on building a meeting or facilitating a meeting. So they take care of themselves. They are employee in a company, but they take care of themselves and said, I want to do that training. And then they get that training and they took it back to their own manager and said, yeah, we need it all. We need it in our company. We need it in our team. We need it in our direction, our organization, part of the organization. So that's what's happening also. A lot of single participants took the training or the experience of the training, told their managers about it. And the managers were saying, okay, that's what we need. Call Mireille and ask if she can train our whole team or our part of our company. So from that point of view, from that moment, I only give a lot of in-company trainings.
And this makes total sense and reminds me of the saying that we're buying from people, from human beings, and we are selling to human beings.
Yeah.
So your funnel of first, okay, I help you to solve your immediate pain through a Q&A. Come in here and you get immediate solutions for the individual. And then, oh, I want more of that. I sign up for the training as individual. Oh, I enjoy it so much. And then I open the door and I'm your reference, basically, to broaden it up and then come back to sell to the corporates.
I think there are two very clear things in your synthesizing, and that is people buy from good references of other people. Mm-hmm. So if I'm telling you that's a good one, then you are thinking, okay, she's saying it's a good one. I want that also. I'm not going to do some research for others, for other trainings. That's one. And now I forget the second thing. Oh, it will come back later.
Yes, Gordon, you can cut that out, please.
Yeah.
People buy from recommendations of other people.
Yeah.
And the second thing?
The second thing is companies want to explore also. A lot of entrepreneurs are saying, I need a contact with the HR of that company, or I need a contact with the sales manager of that company. But be aware that those are all human, and they have human problems. So sometimes you're thinking, I need HR, but be aware it's a human with their own trouble, their own questions, their own obstacles, and just focus not on the function in the company, but focus on their troubles. What transformation do they need to solve their problems, or to make their work better, so that they can get better results from their teams or from their organization, from their work?
Yes, very, very good advice. And then you can speak directly to them, and you'll find a fan, an ambassador, definitely a door.
Yeah,
it's genuine. What just came up for me was, if I think of someone in the audience who just started, I think, yeah, that sounds fantastic, but how do I get there? Because the more we do, the more case studies we have, so the more practical advice we can share on social media.
Yeah.
And for me, I started with a podcast, and basically the podcast became the backbone of everything that I'm doing in my business. Where did you start? Where did you find the inspiration for these very first posts?
Yeah,
if they were posts.
Yeah, there are two different things. One is everybody has a lot of experience. Maybe when you're younger, it's less, but you also have your little jobs when you go to school, and in the weekends you work somewhere. And there are always a lot of situations which you can analyze. What's happening over there? What happened over there? What did I do to solve something? So analyze your own cases. You have more cases than you think. You have more stories to tell than you are thinking. Just ask yourself, okay, what's happening over there? What did I do? How did I change the situation? How did I help somebody else? Just keep questioning you that.
I love that.
Yeah. And the second one is, and that's something what really helps me also, don't be very perfectionistic. When I think back to my first training, and that was a live on-site training, so that was years before COVID. When I think back to that training, then I think, what did I do? Did people pay for that? Really? Oh, I will never give such a training. What a bad training, because now you're much more experienced. We are 7 years later. But what helped me at that moment is that somebody, another coach, said to me, do it. Just try. Even if you say it's a pilot, call it something different. But you have to make your hours. You have to create experiences. You have to try and learn and fail, and try and learn and fail. And the third thing, what also helped me, is in Dutch we say it, gluren bij de buren, but go ahead and watch others how they are doing it. So ask a co-facilitator, can I help you as a second person? Or follow a training with a very experienced facilitator, and just think, okay, what little part can I change to make it my own? Don't copy, of course, the training, but you can pick everything from every person or a book or article or an assignment or somebody else, pick, mix and match.
Yeah. And I think that's also another good source by just participating and learning. So I remember that I think I first, or what I associated with your name in the beginning was, oh, Mireille, she's the one who read all these facilitation books. you could cite so many different theories and from so many sources that I knew, oh, you're very knowledgeable. And I think even if someone is starting out, they can share about what they've read and their own reflections and maybe a synthesis or how others can apply it. And if they participated in workshops, what have they learned and how they would apply it. And therefore, the followers see the reasoning and they see that this person is investing in themselves and is staying up to date.
Yeah, and I'm still buying a lot of books on facilitation or teams, designing team session. So it's still a source for me. And there are so many insights and so many models and so many ways of working, but make it your own. Translate it to your own session. If I had read this article or this book or this model before the session I did last week, what will I do differently? That's a very good question to apply new knowledge. And maybe it's the answer is nothing because I did a good job. And you did a good job, of course, last week. But asking yourself, what could I do differently? And what will the result be different, is a very good reflection or applying for yourself your knowledge.
I love that reflection question. What would change if I applied this new insight on a past session?
Yeah.
Beautiful. And how did you, or how explicit or conscious were you about building your own brand with niching down or being broad or what Mireille Beumer stands for? Was this something that kind of emerged gradually and organically and suddenly happened, or was it something that you crafted?
Yeah, I think it's grown. I found it very difficult to be very explicit because you're still a little bit afraid. What are people thinking about me, or what if they don't agree and they give another feedback? Or on social media, sometimes you can get some feedback where you think, that's not what I meant, and that's not a nice reaction, I don't like it, and then you feel a little bit about it. So it took a while before I really write down my opinion, my sharp opinion, and that's more and more and more at this moment. Now I'm more explicit about my opinion. Like, for instance, using the technical tools. There are so many people or facilitators who are using technical tools and forget the humanity in the meetings. So being explicit, we need more humanity in our meetings. It's something I'm saying a lot. And that's very, when another facilitator really loves a mural or something else, then he and she is thinking, but I on my session flow, it's in the mural, and that's a very good tool. It's also a part of my workshop. And then reading, we need more humanity and less less digital tools. That can clash. But now I'm much more stronger or more confident. That's okay. But a couple of years ago, I found it a little bit. It makes me scary.
Yes. And I think it's really, that's an art to find the balance. So when are the moment that we need to record our insights and what we are saying? And then, yes, we do need a whiteboard. what are the moments where it's about connecting to each other and listening and slowing down, and then it's better without tools actually, and just focus on being human together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that for it's similar to back then when we started to use PowerPoint for giving speeches or talks, that it's so easy to hide behind a PowerPoint slide, and then to use the PowerPoint basically as your own. Instead of having your notes, you have PowerPoint slides. And I think it's as easy to use a digital whiteboard like a mural instead of PowerPoint slides, but then it's also as easy to be dominated by the tool.
Yeah, yeah, and being very explicit about your opinion on that on that use of that tools. Yeah, that's you said it's finding your voice, and it's ook finding your own statements. To be explicit about what's your opinion about facilitation, and what's your opinion about your way of working. How do you work? What is very typical for you?
Yeah.
And bringing back, for instance, the example we talked about. That's one very important example, and that is also it's more like maybe also like a design principle. What you find in the meetings I will facilitate.
And then it can also become part of your brand, right? So if you're associated with a specific tool or a specific school of thought or method, can be as beneficial to communicate as being your own brand, or being quite broad or provocative.
Yeah, I think you have to make a choice as a facilitator. Am I do I relate to a tool and always use that? Or am I independent? And can I use everything or nothing? And I think that's also part of your brand. What are you? Are you always, I'm using always Miro, or I'm also always using Miro, and that's part of my brand? Or is your brand, I'm using what's nothing or everything, or I can use everything even if you want to.
Yeah, and I think similar to the methods.
Yeah,
you can be a design thinker.
Yeah,
or a liberating structuralist.
it's
or
it's the right word. Yeah.
Yeah. And then strongly associate yourself with that. And I think there are pros and cons about doing that, right? Because on the one hand, by using these, you attract a certain community that already speaks the language. And I think it also makes clear or explicit what you're standing for. So if you're saying that you're a design thinker, then everyone who would hire you knows exactly what to expect.
That's right. And I think also to go on that brand question, be aware also of your presence, that if you're a design thinker, then a lot of people relate that to creativity or innovation. And be aware that your photos or your visuals on your website or on your marketing are in line with creative and innovation.
Good one.
Yeah, when you are very, people relate me a lot with enthusiastic and energy. So the photos on my website, they shows a lot of energy. They show a power woman. They show somebody who really stands on the website or stands in the visuals. And that's also very important. How do I want to people that they see me, not only read your articles or you read your content, but also how do you want that they look at you? What do they see? And is that in line with your brand, who you want to be?
Very good point, the consistency.
Again, the consistency. Yeah.
Which also then relates to our facilitation work, where it's also about consistency, where it's about giving structure, creating, designing processes.
Yeah.
So by the way we present ourselves and our brand, we already showcase what it means to us.
Yeah.
Although sometimes it's more difficult said than done, because the shoemaker usually wears the worst shoes, right?
That's true. That's true. And I think that's why it's always it's also your own question you have to ask yourself. Where do I educate myself, and how do I try to be innovative? How can I try again new things? You don't want to do new things for your biggest client for the first time, and that's why you're never done before. In a safe space, let's facilitate or try new things. So be aware of yourself. How do I try new things? What can I adapt in my methods? What can I adapt in my way of working to facilitate that client still better?
And
think of for yourself, what is your trial and error path? Always have a trial and error path so that you can sharpen your own mind and sharpen your own way of working.
Can you share an example?
Yeah, last year I did several things, and this year I changed it. Last year I launched very simple short trainings. There only were 10 days. I call it a 10 days program. And so everybody, all participants get every day a little bit content, and then they go into interaction on an online platform with each other. So they had a lot of discussions with each other and learn a lot from each other. And in those 10 days, I facilitate one or two online sessions. So where they really live interact with each other and deepening their questions and getting to know each other. And it was a very low way of getting to know me, but also a low way of working. People can learn from each other. But it was 10 days, so it was very intensive for them, for the participant, but also for me. So I changed, but it was for me, it was a very easy way to show new things and to try out, okay, when you're using this, how would you like to use this model in your meeting, for instance? Or what if you ask these questions in your meeting, what will happen? So it was for me a try out, and for the participants, they get new ideas and new suggestions. But because of the intensive period, 10 days, 10 working days, I changed the format in the beginning of this year. So now every month, on the third Friday of the month, I organize a free inspiration session. And that it's not a training, but it's an inspiration session where people can learn from each other. I just only think about the subject. What is the subject of this month? I just formulate a couple of questions and some very simple assignments, and participants are interacting with each other with the aim to explore that subject using those questions. And for me, it's an easy way to try something, we have to generate content, for instance, about hybrid meetings. So I will organize an inspiration session about hybrid meetings so people can learn from each other. And I can try, if this question about hybrid meetings, does it work with you? Or do you get inspired by that question or that subject, that part of a hybrid meeting? And in another subject is a manual of me, make a manual of me, because before you want to work with somebody else, you have to know how you want to work and what's your way of working, what is your preference. So that's not a subject. So for me, it's a trial and error. People can see me also, the way how I'm facilitating, and people can learn from each other. And it's not a training because I don't deliver a lot of content to them.
Yeah, and it gives you permission to try out new things. And and also to get inspiration from the group then.
And I think the most important is also they get inspired by each other. They learn from each other. And I think that's also one of the practice or one of the competences a facilitator needs to have. How can you open a participant, and I open the group, creating the safe space for participants so that they can share their knowledge.
Yeah. And it's funny that you're saying that, because I always took it for granted that this is normal to do in a workshop, that everyone contributes. And then I was so spoiled with never done before, because it's all about sharing. And then sitting in more and more other workshops, I realized, oh no, that's something actually quite special. So now I made it explicit in our community that it is a space where a unique group comes together around a unique topic. So if we're not using the collective intelligence, if not everyone has the opportunity to share something, it's basically disrespecting the knowledge that's in the room.
Yeah, that's a nice description. We have to use the content and we are, how did you call it? We
have to respect the collective knowledge.
Yeah.
Collective wisdom, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's every time it's special, right? It's every time a different group around a different topic, and even more so for your sessions, I guess, that are open and invite different facilitators to join.
Yeah.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
And you have mentioned now you had the Q&As, and now you have the inspiration sessions, and then you have the trainings, and you work with corporates. How do you, if I may ask, how do you come up with pricing? Or where do you find your orientation for pricing? Because I think that's the second most difficult thing for any facilitator.
How much do I have to charge for my...
Yes, and I think it's a difficult process where we can charge by our preparation time, we can charge by the number of participants, we can charge by looking at what the others charge.
Yeah.
What's your process?
Yeah, to be honest, the last words you used, knowing what the others are pricing, I have totally no idea. The only little bit knowledge you have about that is how many times did your client calls and say, your offer is nice, but your price is too high, so we choose somebody else. So then you know you're too expensive or your value is less. That can also be a reason, of course. But last year or last 2 years, I only get 3 to 5 times such a call. So I know maybe I'm too less. That's also a question, but I never know. But what I make the appointment with myself, always be aware of your preparation time. And your preparation time is even in the beginning when you are starting facilitator. It's always more than you expect, than you think you will prepare. And that's not only your own thinking, but that's also a client who calls, oh, you said this and this, I don't understand. Can we have a call to explain? Or that the client calls and say, oh, I want to just a little bit different. I said I want this, but can you also do that in your meeting? So be aware that the client has also an opinion and he or she will call you for an explanation, and that takes time. I never argue with the client about hours. No, they don't know how many hours I spent in preparing and the session and the after sales. No, not the after sales, but they're getting a
service.
document, yeah, the after services, but also they will get a document after the training or after the session, the results. I will make a nice bookwork, a nice report of it. They never know how many hours I spent for the preparation, how many hours I spent for the end report, how many, of course, they know how many hours the session is. But I only give one prize. And the price is sometimes higher when there are a lot of participants, and the price is lower when there are 10 or 15 participants.
Mm. And I have an assumption of why you're not sharing your preparation time, but I would like to ask the question instead of assuming.
Why I don't make share the preparation times with the client?
Or why you don't share by the hour or...
Yeah, because you always get a discussion on it, or that's my experience, to be honest. So it don't have to be true, of course, in all situations. But clients don't expect that your preparation time is 2.5, sometimes 3 times the real time that a session takes. So if a session is half a day, 4 hours, my preparation times is a day, maybe more than a day, with all the client calls and meetings also. And there are less clients who understand that. So many preparation, that's not needed for us.
Yes, we're such an easy client.
We have such an easy process, and then I think, yeah, then it's especially needed.
Wet flag.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So being aware of your preparation time, and my husband is always saying, "Oh, you say you have to do something, and it will take you 1 hour, but in real time, it always takes you 2 hours or 3 hours." So. So when I say on Sunday afternoon, I have to do a little bit of work, but it's only 2 hours. Then he is saying, oh, it's 5 hours. Okay, I'm doing something for myself.
Yeah.
The estimation of the time you use, because when you're focused and you think, I want to make a good design, I have to design it and that and that and that, you get inspiration of your own thoughts.
Mm.
And it will be bigger and broader than you first calculated. And sometimes you have to say, stop, it's enough. I set a point. And now it's enough. And then you're thinking a little bit when you're in the shower or walking outside, and I can change that a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, so true.
Don't forget your thinking time. That is the best advice. The time, the shower, when you're on the shower or walking outside, or then you're not really working on a proposal behind your laptop or computer. You're not typing, you're not making your session plan, etc. But your thinking time, that's the most time.
Yeah.
And
I was thinking about that as well, because very often for me, it's a process that ideas emerge, and then it might look as if it took me an hour to prepare a session, but actually it took, the 10 years that led to that hour, plus the 2 weeks of just constantly thinking about it in different contexts, and then being able to sit down. And I think for me, why I wouldn't charge by the hour or share the preparation time with a client is also, I don't want to have the discussion that they would tell me, oh, can you do it in that? We need to cut down the costs, so prepare less. That's non-negotiable, right? Yeah. So if something is non-negotiable because I don't want to compromise my quality, then there is no value in me sharing that.
Yeah. Then my answer would be, okay, then you get a less meeting, or you get a half meeting. You want a meeting for 4 hours, then you get also, I have to prepare less, then I prepare a meeting for 2 hours. You want to pay less, you get less. And that's in the overall view of the proposal, not only a part of the proposal.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe what will happen when we say put thinking time on the pro? I think I will try it again. I will, and maybe I'll ask what the reaction is of the client. Thinking time. Very expensive. Yeah, and be aware also. We told early in this podcast over your inspiration time when you read books, articles, follow other trainings, watching a video, listening to the podcast. That's also time you need to compensate everything somewhere. And of course, you don't have to need to compensate every hour your education hour, your own education hours. But be aware of that also. So register, write it down. How many hours do I spend every month on education, your own education? And how will you bring that back in the offers?
This is very interesting. And thank you for reminding me and us, because it's something, I must be honest, I haven't even thought about. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very easy and fast route into burnout.
Yeah.
Not to be aware of that.
Yeah.
But because I would have thought, okay, that's part of my passion, or because I'm enjoying what I do so much, then of course I read all that stuff and I listen to all these podcasts.
And make yourself also crazy.
Yes.
On it. Related to the burnout you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, and then to just be conscious that yes, we're investing in ourselves, and at some point we want this to be compensated.
Yeah. You can be honest and give yourself a budget for every year, and that's not only a budget in money. I can spend so many amounts for trainings or books or something, but you can also give you a budget in hours. I work for clients so many hours a week or a month. I do so much hours for marketing, for administration, and every week I have one morning or one afternoon for education. And of course, you don't have to do exactly that on Monday afternoon from 2 till 5, but be aware of the time you spend on different tasks and don't make yourself crazy.
And I think that's where it then becomes complex, because when I start my business, then obviously I need more time for education, and also my rate is lower. So my first class, so it's basically, I think if I see it in a journey, it's my clients now that are compensating for the education that I did early on.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they're paying for all these hours that I spent in experimenting and in learning and thinking. But the early clients, they were kind of the guinea pig, right? They are those that we are still a little bit ashamed of, like, ooh.
Yeah, you're right. And maybe you look through the eyes of the starting facilitator and a more experienced facilitator, because the balance there is different. In the meanwhile, I think that when you are starting facilitator, most of your time, spend it on marketing, spend it on describing your cases, your experience, your situation, as we mentioned before. That's the most important part you have to do in your first year of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, getting yourself out there.
Yeah. Let the people know. Show up. Again, show up.
Yes. And before closing this story and looking behind, and before looking ahead, what is the one thing that you would have loved to know before?
I think the quote, "Everything will be all right." And why? being an entrepreneur, and doesn't mean if you're a facilitator or a trainer or totally something else, your work is going with ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And where you're in an up, then you think, oh, I'm so busy, I cannot make it, I have to work all the evenings and the weekends, etc. And where you're in a down, then you think, I have no job, I have no work, nobody's paying me. About 1 month, I have no money anymore. But that's the way how it goes. So be confident and trust the process. Everything will be all right. And I think I'm now 7 years an entrepreneur, and in 7 years it's always was all right after an up and a down, and that's a part of the process, part of being an entrepreneur.
Very good reminder.
Yeah.
And it's still something that puzzles me, because I heard it from I guess from every entrepreneur, and I've experienced it myself. The moment where I think, oh my goodness, I don't know where the money is coming from after month X, and X could be, well, sometimes next month, sometimes in 4 months. And I had this over and over again, and there was always something emerging.
Yeah.
An unexpected lead calling, an unexpected invitation, opportunity. Something is always coming up as long as we do show up.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly the piece of the puzzle. When you have enough money on your account in the bank, then you are less eager, because you are thinking, okay, I can live for 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, or maybe what it is. Then you are less eager, because the eagerness is not in, I have to show up. When you know, as you're saying, next month, there's nothing to spend, then your eagerness is much more. You have to try new things. You have to reach out to clients. You have to show up. You have to. So the eagerness and the proactive feeling, it's much more. So sometimes it's good to have a little buffer. Yes. Because it creates also new chances and creates new ideas. Oh, I must earn money. What can I do? I can call that client. I can call that. I can launch that. I can work together with somebody else. So there is a sort of eagerness when you have to, when the amount of money is gone next one. And when you have a lot of amount, then I call that client tomorrow. I will think another day about that new product. And maybe I will launch it next week. You see the difference between those two people?
Yes.
Those a lot of amount and less amount?
Yes, and still, I don't know. Because on the one hand, I think as an entrepreneur, finding leads is a little bit as a single trying to find a partner. If you're yes, if you're desperate, nobody wants to date you.
Exactly. That's a good, yeah.
And I think if you're desperate, if you're doing all these cold calls, nobody wants to hire you. Everyone wants to date those who are high in demand, who are maybe a little bit unapproachable, mystical, but still kind of sympathetic.
Yeah.
And so although, and I think that's then the magic, to have the trust that you described, that something will come up, it will be fine in the end. So I don't have to be desperate.
Yeah.
And still to have the eyes open for opportunities that will come up, because you need them.
Yeah. Yeah. People will feel the ease in your voice, your body language, your email or something else. They will feel it. And I had a manager 15 years ago, and he said always to me, when you are the most busy in your work, then you need to drink a cup of coffees with your clients. So always keep in mind in your agenda time for coffee, even if you are so busy and you have so many projects, so many activities. That is the moment that you have to drink a cup of coffees with your clients.
Counter-cyclical.
Yeah.
Yes. Because, yeah, such a good advice.
Yeah, I still see that man. It was an old man with white hair and a little bit. But
Yeah.
He said that. Yeah.
Must have been an economist.
Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah.
Yeah, counter-cyclical investments. Wow. And so what comes next after all the trainings and the Q&As and would you still call yourself a freelance facilitator, or do you have a facilitation business? Where's the difference and where is it going?
Yeah, I have thought about that question, and it's a little bit in the description of the word and what you think when you hear the word. For me, a freelance facilitator is, I get, for instance, when I call somebody else, another facilitator, and I'm saying, oh, I have a client, my agenda is too busy. Do you want to take that client for me? And we can have a little chit chat or about the approach, etc. But then you do the job. That feels a little bit for me a freelance facilitator, like I'm called, I've been calling, somebody calls me, and I get a job to do, a session to facilitate. And having a facilitating business is much more exploring new things, new services, looking to the trends in the market, knowing what's happening in, for instance, the US or Canada or Australia, what's happening over there, what can we use, what they are doing, what can we do over here, how can I show up on a new way, what can I do differently to stand out, and also having a team with you, other employees or freelancers, but for instance, a back office team, which helps you and helps you with marketing or back office or financial or technical stuff, and doing it together, making that business. And also think about, how can I work smarter? What are recurrent processes I can automate? And that can be very simple in your making your invoices or making your proposals for the clients. Do you use a template, or do you start everything every time from scratch from scratch? And when you starting from zero, then it takes a long time to make a template, to make an offer. But when you have a template, then you can easily build blocks and then have a template. So automate your processes, or think about, what can I automate to make it easy, to make it, that's what I learned from you. What can I do to make it easy? That sentence. And I think that's a question you can ask yourself when your business grows bigger and bigger. What can I do it on a different way? How can I hire somebody else? Somebody who can help me with the things I don't like, or somebody else is better in it. Administration, I'm not a good administrator, so somebody else is doing that for me. You also.
Admin is not my cup of tea.
No, of course. And thinking about those processes, how can you change them? How can you do it differently? That makes you grow. Because then you spend more time for the things you're really good at it, and the things, activities, what you can use to expand. Being better being better in administration will not expand your business. Yeah, when you have a financial office, of course.
Thank you. And I think that's something that I learned early on from you. And it took me a while to really understand it and to take it on, because you very early on had an assistant, a virtual assistant.
Yeah.
And I was always thinking, oh, I cannot afford an assistant just yet. Yeah. And then at one point I just leaned in and hired one. And although I wasn't really ready to actually afford it, And this was a moment where my business ramped up because it freed up so much, not only time, but capacity to think, to be creative, to spark also energy that would then attract new clients. That I think this was the single best investment. Now I hired a second one.
And it's exactly what you describes, because it's not only the task what you takes your time, but it also takes your energy. It drains your energy, and you need your energy for your creativity, for your clients, for your product, your services. And there are people who love doing administration, so I'm glad they are there.
Yes.
And so they are happy.
With how many people are you working? So who is on your team, and what would you, because I think that some in the audience might think of a facilitator only as a one-man or woman show, and wouldn't maybe even get the idea to hire an assistant or others. So what would, maybe you can share your back office.
My back office is consisting of three ladies. They're all ladies now. One is my marketing assistant. She reviews all my posts, not the content, but she makes it sharper. Why is it important? Why does your readers need to know this? So she asks always very good questions, and she posted also on LinkedIn. She said to me, "Oh, you have to react on this or react. Oh, have you seen this?" So she's the social media marketing assistant. She's writing a concept of my newsletters. She's reviewing all the content. Then I have the technical assistant. She's taking care of the website, the email marketing system. She plans always the newsletters, the blogs on the website. So she's looking for the technical part. And the third one is my back office. I call her my back office assistant. And she's doing the financials, making the invoices, but she's also the first client contact. So if you call me on my general number, then she calls you back what your question is, and she made an appointment. And when you send an email to the general email box, this was one of the first things we organized, my own email box and a general contact email box. And on every place, my own mobile number is gone. There is only a general number, telephone number. So sometimes there are a lot of people still having my personal telephone number, but when a new client have a question, they use the general number, the general email box, and then you come with my back office assistant. Nice. And then I have my co-trainer, and she is nothing to do with the back office, but when there are a lot of questions for trainings, then she gives the same training as I do, with the same methods, the same way of working, but she is doing it. So it's quite different, because she is different, of course. Yeah. So when I have too much work, she worked for me, and that's with my name on it. Okay, and then you would pay her. Yeah. And it's not like a commission, but she gets a salary on your behalf because you're the company. Yeah. I pay her, the company pays me. I will send the offer to the client, and she gets a question that time, that day. Then you have to go to that client, and then you will give the training, and she will send me an invoice, and I will pay her. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, you're welcome. And where's this heading? To more co-facilitators, to more automated sessions, or just to say, no, it's good like that. Just an increased efficiency. Yeah, sometimes I would love to have some facilitators around me and to develop new products together. That's one thought. On the other hand, I'm very thinking perfectionistic. I knowing the better. I want to do it on my own way. I'm not sure if that's a good thought. So that's my doubt for this year. But the way I worked last year, like I told you about the co-trainer, I love to do that more. So having a team around me and giving more work to each other. And because the most thing I love the most is designing new content, designing new trainings, getting content in trainings. I love the content in trainings and writing proposal. I never thought I will say that, but I really love that process. And that somebody else will take care of the operation. And of course, I want to do also the operation, because you have to do the job, but not all the work. And then you can give it to somebody else. And they are also happy. We are all happy.
Nice. Thank you. I usually ask the question what makes a workshop fail? And I wonder whether you have thoughts on how to fail a young business, how to fail a solo career.
Not asking for help. And it don't have to be directly that you hire your first assistant, because you're told your own process you're going through before you first hired your own virtual assistant. But what I mean is more talk to others about your ideas, talk to others about your thoughts, talk to others about your obstacles, about your new products. And you don't have to do everything of the change when somebody is saying, oh no, that's not good enough. Oh no, don't do that. That doesn't mean that you have to change your own products or change your ideas or your inspiration. But be aware, take everything as a present and think, okay, thank you for that present. I will see if I use it. And maybe you don't use it. But don't keep everything for yourself. When you open up, it will make you stronger.
Beautiful. Yeah. Which also comes back to the question of competition. And I haven't asked it explicitly, but you said that you're not aware of the prices of your competitors. So my assumption is that you're not really paying attention to competition. And what I hear now from your example is exactly that. Don't be afraid of it, share. Because at the end of the day, you will stand out through the creativity of your ideas. And I believe the market is big enough for all of us.
Yeah, and be aware, everybody has his or her own energy. You can copy a model. You can reuse a framework. People can use your frameworks. People can use your blogs, your content. That also happens for me. And I see some text and on another post and I say, it looks like my text, my sentence. People cannot copy your energy. People cannot copy your enthusiasm. You cannot the things you're seeing through your eyes or how you look like. That cannot be copied.
Yeah, people cannot copy your energy. Beautifully said. Yes.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
So that's why you don't have to be afraid of competitors. They are different. Of course, they facilitate also, but they do it on a different way. And it's more your challenge, be explicit. What is your way of working? Show up.
Yeah. And share your, what values are you based on? What is...
Yeah.
What is your style? What do you,
Yeah, and what finds you important? Your mission with Never Done Before is also very clear. What you want to reach, what your purpose is, and what's your role also in it, and what's your role, what it is not.
Yes. Although it's different, it's funny now that although I started as a facilitator, now I wouldn't necessarily call myself a facilitator anymore. Well, I facilitate facilitators, so I'm more a community builder or host.
Yeah.
But I rarely facilitate for clients. I don't facilitate one-off workshops anymore.
Yeah, and that's exactly your thing. And I think the difference is, you say I'm more a community manager and I facilitate facilitators or clients. When I will introduce a community, for instance, I'm not doing it, but for instance, it will be a totally different community. It will never be the same, never, because I found different things important and I will put different energy in it. So it will be a totally different community. And that's the same with when you compare two facilitators with each other.
Good point, thank you.
So don't be afraid of your competitors.
Yes.
There is enough. There's so many space in the world.
Yeah. And especially when we are starting, it's more important to focus on our own voice.
Yeah, exactly.
How to build our own voice and our own standing than to look at what the others do and then maybe compromise. Yeah. Or it's so tempting at the beginning. I remember very well when I started designing my website and then looking at other websites and, oh, this sounds great. Or let me take a bit of that and a bit of that and then mix and match. And then it wasn't me anymore.
Yeah.
And it took quite a while actually to find my own voice and own style.
Yeah, and that's normal. I think my first website, to go on that point, my first website, it never stays longer alive than 3 months, 4 months. Then I already changed my mind. So
which is
an advice for a starting entrepreneur: don't start with your website.
Yes, very good advice. Or make sure that you can change it.
Yeah.
So don't invest too much money in the very first website because it won't stay there for long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see it as an experiment. And then later on, and this refers back to another benefit of having an assistant, to me, it forces me to define a process and then to stick to it. Because once you have to instruct someone or to build it together with someone where you're relying or outsourcing, delegating, you have to be very explicit in what needs to happen and what way. And you cannot just change midway or leave some stuff implicit. So it helped me a lot to remain consistent and not jump into my own process and just change it because I had a better idea in the meantime.
And make time for them to explain that process.
Yeah.
And that's one of my biggest learning points from the last period. Make time for your team.
Yes.
And explain what you want, explain what's going on, explain what your ideas are, explain what you expect, ask what they want. How can we build a better connection together?
Celebrate their wins.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And create a shared vision.
Yeah. Yeah. And so easy to think, oh, it's my team. My clients are more important. I just postpone that appointment with my team because the clients don't do it.
And isn't it funny that this is a behavior that our clients call us in to fix their issues with their teams.
Yeah.
And then it's so tempting to forget about our own just because, oh yeah, but it's different because they're not on my payroll because they're all freelancers as well. Or, oh, it's different because we're so small. Oh, it's different. No, it's not.
No, it's exactly you are doing the same as your clients are doing when you're acting like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be aware of it. Yeah, and or make an appointment with your agreement with your team, what you are doing with when that's happening, or be sure that you have a minimum of contact, which you really want to do every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, and stick to that.
Yeah. Wonderful. Mireille, to close.
Yeah.
After over an hour of a conversation.
Wow.
If the audience had just one thing to remember, what would you share with them? What's the essence of our conversation?
I think, to be honest, in the light of building your own business, it are 2 words I mentioned several times during the podcast, and that is show up. Believe in yourself and show up.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yes, always. And I'm looking forward to, seeing your business grow and develop.
You're invited when we have our 10-year celebration.
Yes. Dum, da, da, dum.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam.
Thank you.